be a little easier to see if I toggle the X-ray shading off and open up my ice tree down at the bottom here. So if our particles are moving upwards in Y, we actually need to find a way to take their existing position and to add some smooth turbulence along its Y-axis. To do that, we're going to actually bring in the particle position, the current particle position per frame, using a particle getter. So if we look under our tasks particles, look for our getter compounds, find the get particle position, and bring it in. And this outputs a per point vector as a particle. So it's a vector per point position, or per point of the particle. So I'm going to pull that in and access a Turbulize compound. And this time I'm going to turbulize around a value, a base value. Remember, when we're working with turbulizes, we have a choice to turbulize around a value or by range. And by range, we can only access a min and a max value. And I actually want to use this existing point position on the y-axis as my base and have turbulence or variance around that. So min and max really isn't going to help my cause, so I'll find a use for that later. And we'll output our point position into the polymorphic port, so we now have a turbulize around value that is outputting a 3D vector per point of my cloud. And I'm going to have to set the point position back again. So I've got the point position, modified it, and if I clear my ICE preset menu, I'm going to look back to my setters and find the set particle position compound. Connect that up. And if I rearrange my operators here, or rearrange my branches, I want to emit from surface, and after I emit from surface, set an initial speed, and then take the particle position and turbulize it. So that's the next branch to my ice tree. And then down below here, we're just simulating particles. At this point, I've actually got particles that are kind of growing a little too high. So I'm going to make sure that we set the particle age limit and delete the particles when they reach that age limit. So it's an initialization property or attribute I'm going to set. So let's look for our age-related compounds. And there's deleting particles at age limit. We'll need that. And I'll take the set particle at age limit and I'll just drop it right on top of the emit from surface compound and make sure I connect to the execute on emit port. I'll just drag my delete particles at age limit, and I'm going to need to plug it to evaluate every frame, and I'm going to plug it in after the set particle position. In fact, I'll have a couple more ports here. Give it some room. Usually I'll plug in the delete particles at the lower portion of the stack. It's one of the last things read before the simulate particles picks up the state at the last frame and moves it to the next frame to use as the next starting point. So I'll set the particle age limit to something like 3, or actually 4 should be good. Maybe what I'll actually do is randomize that age limit. So if we're allowing the particles to live for 4 seconds, then let's actually back up here. Zero. There we go. So yeah, we're getting some kind of movement, but it's not really what we want. So we're going to have to obviously tune this effect somewhat. So let's first of all look at getting the particles kind of in line with one another first before we set their age limit. So right now we'll keep an age limit of 4 seconds. And we'll just scale in our turbulence. So on the turbulize around value, we double click on it and start to work with some of the turbulence variance